Welcome everyone to the channel. I just want to say I appreciate you guys being here for just a couple minutes of your day. I appreciate you guys. This is a video. So I decided I'm going to start doing videos like this where once I finish like a really long series, I actually want to do like a whole oversight of just my experience of reading it all and just explain why I like the series or why I didn't like it. And then that's about it. I'm going to talk about certain parts, but manga's going to be a little different than like a fantasy series or just whatever, because manga is broken up into arc, and that's usually how they do it for like long stories and stuff. But fantasy is just per book, so that's how I would do it for the fantasy, and just long like actual like books for their lengths, and then manga would just be, you know, by arcs. But with this is just my full thoughts of the whole thing in general. I did one earlier with Sailor Moon in February, and now I was like, all right, I just finished Berserk. Well, I'm not finished because Berserk's not done yet, but it will be. I am currently caught up with Berserk, and I'm really happy about that. And I'm actually excited to see where it goes and how the manga ended right where it is. I was like, what? I was really sad. So with Berserk is the story of the main character named Guts. Wow. So with this whole story, you start out with Guts, and Guts, you actually start when he is literally just a baby all the way to the end of where you are currently with the Millennium Falcon arc. And Guts himself is just, wow. He grows so much through this all, and you get to see him through the Golden Age arc when he's just a boy, and it's a coming of age story through the Golden Age / Eclipse arc, which is really interesting. I'm really 50-50 with coming of age stories because sometimes they're done really, really well and sometimes they're just not. This is done so well where you get to see Guts grow. Because when you first meet Guts, he is a hardened character already. He doesn't have much friends. There's a lot of things that happen to Guts early on that you actually can understand why Guts is just the way he is towards other people. He has a really hard time trusting others. With the Golden Age arc, he slowly becomes more and more isolated, and you almost like, I wouldn't say you almost hate Guts, but you almost can relate why like Guts just doesn't like other people or trust and want to be close with other people, because the people that he was close with are just not good people, I should say. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. When you're reading this in the Golden Age arc, he starts actually developing a small circle of friends because he meets Griffith, which I hate Griffith, and anyone else that likes Griffith, I don't want to be friends with you. Everyone should know why no one wants to be friends with anyone that likes Griffith. Like, I like Griffith as a character. He's a really good character, but like everything that Griffith has done is bad. Like, he's not a good dude at all. And anyone that thinks he is, just please, just don't talk to me, man. I don't need that in my life right now. He meets Griffith, and then he meets the Band of the Hawks, which is what Griffith is bringing, which is just a group of mercenaries. And Guts has been a mercenary through his whole life. And when you get to that aspect with it, you get to meet a lot of other characters. Now, I'm sorry to tell you guys, I did not remember a lot of the characters' names besides Ricket and Casca. And then the others I kind of forgot. I wrote them down and I lost it and then I deleted it. It's just, yeah, it's been a lot. Anyways, though, so you get to meet the Band of the Hawks with Griffith, and Griffith had his dream of basically just becoming like a ruler of all the world. Of course, the rest of the band is like, let's go. We're gonna go follow this beautiful man, because Griffith is like, the artwork alone shows how beautiful Griffith is. Like, Griffith is like beautiful. Like, for a dude, he is just like, wow, like stunning. And he uses that for his advantage. His beauty gets him a lot of ways to become more and more in power. It's not just that, but he's also very good at manipulating people. And that's what he does throughout this whole series, is when you meet him. And Guts follows with Griffith, but there's a little bit with Griffith and Guts I really like, is Griffith can't fully control Guts. Everyone else he can control, but besides, he can't control Guts. And I really like that aspect with it, because Griffith, throughout this whole time you are meeting him, you kind of get vibes. You're like, all right, this is a man I should not be trusting. And it's like that throughout the whole arc, where Guts and Griffith just, they trust each other. They're really good friends, but at the same time, Griffith wants full control over Guts. Throughout this whole time, you have Casca, who Guts doesn't really like. I always have the vibe that Guts really didn't like Casca, and Casca definitely didn't like Guts. And eventually, they started bonding, and they actually fall in love. And there was this really sick ass chapter. It's called, I think it's like the 100-man fight or something, where Guts fights 100 dudes to save Casca. And that was just so gnarly. That was just so badass. It was like a whole chapter where Guts just mutilates everyone in this. I was like, what is going on? The worst part is, I haven't watched any of the anime for it because I know the 97 show is pretty good, but I know the rest of them are just not, so I just don't have a desire to watch them. It makes me sad because I just sit there and I'm like, I can't wait to see this anime. So anyways, though, through this whole part, you actually get really close with Casca and Guts, and you sit there and you're like, I want these two to be together. And I really, really enjoy that aspect. And you actually can sit there and feel, you're like, Guts is actually becoming human. You actually can start seeing him care, especially towards Casca. Casca has really helped him, and I really, really enjoyed that whole aspect of seeing that. And it just makes me sit there and think, I'm like, this is just beautiful. And then what happens, it just gets progressively worse. There's during the Golden Age arc, Griffith has a princess that he's manipulating and trying to slowly control so he can get more power. And the king really liked Griffith, and they were going to like get married, but Griffith got some cheeks out of it.
Yeah, boy.
And hooked up with Princess Charlotte, and then they found out, and then Griffith was like tossed into like a dungeon. Before that, Guts left, and they had like a really beautiful moment of Guts versus Griffith one last time, because Griffith, the first time these two met, Griffith is like, yo, we're gonna fight, and if you can beat me, then you can leave, but if you can't, so on and so forth. And they do the same exact thing, and Guts actually beats Griffith, which is just sick. It's just so cool to see. Finally, the Band of the Hawks find Guts and tell him like, yo, we gotta go save Griffith. And Guts told, Casca, once we save Griffith, you and I are just gonna leave. And Casca wanted to do that. She just wanted to save Griffith. And I was like, all right. But in my head, I'm like, is it weird that it's just, to me, I feel like I would just want to leave? Maybe that's just me. But anyways, so through all this whole part, they go save Griffith. That's where things get really bad, because Griffith is like bony. He's just not himself. He's wearing like the Hawk helmet. He has this little like apostle, like demon skull thing. Griffith like tries to off himself, and then all of a sudden that's when the sacrifice starts happening. Everyone gets branded, and that's where wild things are happening. And then you get to see the saddest part in all of this, and it just rips your heart out, because Guts gets to witness Griffith, because Griffith grew jealous of Casca and Guts, and he did this to break Guts and Casca so those two could never be together. And he grapes Casca in front of Guts, and I was like, oh. So yeah, that whole part, that was really deep. That was a really deep moment. I wasn't expecting any of that, and I instantly, as soon as I finished this whole arc, I was like, this is the greatest arc I've ever read in my entire life. This is hands down one of the best arcs ever. I don't care what anyone says. Anyone can argue with me in the comments if you want. I don't care. This is like one of the greatest. What happens through all the rest of that is you get to the conviction arc, and then the Millennium Falcon arc. A lot of people say like the Lost Child arc, but I just put that in there with the conviction arc. Just like the other arc, it's called like Fantasy Realm or something like that. It takes place after Millennium Falcon arc. I just put them all together. So once you get into the conviction arc, it's a lot smaller, but that's where Guts is actually going to save Casca, because they're trying to do another eclipse, and you get to meet, I can't think of their names. You get to meet a group of like very religious men, and that was actually a pretty cool one to watch too. I just didn't expect it to happen. But the conviction arc taking place after the eclipse, the conviction arc was definitely weaker, much weaker compared to the eclipse arc, which is fine. I think we kind of needed a breather from it, but you get to meet a lot of cool characters through it. You get to meet Isidore, which is a little boy, which was really fun, and you get to meet a lot of like other characters that slowly worm through the story, but they're not like important. But you get to meet one character that I didn't really care for, but then in the last arc, she actually grew on you, which was Farinesi. Farinesi was actually great as a character. I didn't expect her to be as good, but oh man, she was great. I think Millennium Falcon arc was when she really became a good character. The conviction arc, you get to meet her, and she is just the definition of like, religion is her life. And the way that she grew up and everything, it makes a lot of sense. You learn a lot about it. But because of Guts, she becomes so obsessed with him because he's everything that she wants through it. I guess that's the best way to explain it. So in the conviction arc, she kind of follows Guts to help him save Casca. And then I guess that's the best way to explain the conviction arc. There's some elements that happen to it, but to me, it's just like these are the key elements that kind of happen, which is fine. Let me get into the other part, the last final arc of it. To me, it's the last arc. Like, there is 2 arcs, but I just say it's one. You get the Millennium Falcon arc, which is just a really long arc. It's about as long as the Eclipse / Golden Age arc. I'm pretty sure it's like 20 volumes, I think it is, which is fine. The more the merrier. But you really start off, this arc is kind of back and forth for me. It's not as good as the Golden Age / Eclipse arc, but it's definitely, it's probably, I think it's the second best, honestly. When you really get to learn a lot about characters. You know, you get so many origin stories, and this is where Berserk really ramps up to be fantasy. Like, this is fantasy now. Like, this, before, there was a lot of fantasy-ish things in it, but it was still more just human. Yes, like in the Eclipse arc, they do like the giant sacrifice thing that happens. But with this part, it really just amps up, because after the sacrifice is when things get wild. That's where you learn about the astral world and then our world, they collide, and that's why we're seeing like demons, dragons, trolls, all these like wild, supernatural, spiritual animals here in our world. And it's morbid. It is so bleak and dark that I sit back and think, I'm like, I don't know if this could ever be portrayed in an anime to this extreme. I'm not too sure how far they could go with it. But if they do, I'm all in for it. I just want them to make a really good Berserk show. I think everyone does. So with all this happening, Guts actually realizes that he needs to try and save Casca, and he knows there's like a way, and he wants to leave to go after Griffith. And then when he goes back to his home in the mountain where the blacksmith lived and Rickett lived, he actually sees Griffith, which is just crazy. Griffith just shows up, and I'm like, wow. Like, that really just threw me off. I had to like double check if that was actually Griffith, and it does. And I just didn't expect Griffith just to show up so quickly like that, but he does. And that was like really cool to see. When all that was going on, Griffith just like dipped out because he talked to Rickett real quick, and then he just dipped out. And then he like Guts explained some things that was going on. It actually guilted Guts into having Casca go with them, because they're like, you leave her here for us and nothing else happens. So then you get into some elements where Guts and Casca just don't get along, because Casca is more of like a mind of a child now. And she's very dependent on someone. She's just a child. I guess that's the best way to explain it, because of what happened to the Eclipse arc. So she follows Guts around, and then there's been some actions that happen, and she just hates Guts. Hates Guts so much. What happens is, you get back to Farinesi, and I can't think of the guy's name. I'm really sorry. I'm so bad with names in these books. They actually run into Guts and Casca, which is kind of funny, with Izidori, which is even cooler, because I like Izidori. I think Berserk does a better job, because when you first meet the group, there's not a lot of comedy. Especially with the Black Swordsman arc, and then Golden Age and Eclipse. Not a lot of comedy, and I think the story really needed a little bit of comedic relief in it, because it's such a bleak story that you kind of need that razzle dazzle, you know? There's all going on. You meet all these characters, and they all start grouping back together. And Guts literally doesn't care that Farinesi wants to go with him or anything. He doesn't care. All his purpose is, for one, is to kill Griffith. 2 is to help Casca. And eventually, they're going through so many of these trials, and I'm trying to fast forward a lot of this stuff that's going on through these, because I'm not going to go like super in depth. I just want to talk about this just so you guys know, because there's a lot that kind of happens. Like, there's a troll thing. There's a bunch of trolls, which is really weird. And with the trolls, you actually meet witches, which is also really cool. Witches, get it? It was really cool. I didn't expect that to happen. Honestly, it was just, like I said, it just brought in the fantasy elements. And you meet a little girl, she's about 12, that is a witch. And that's where you learn all about the fantasy elements of Berserk. And the little girl, like I said, I can't remember her name, so I'm just going to keep calling her little girl or the witch, because I can't remember her name for the life of me. Because of her, there was like a scene with the trolls where Farnese and Casca were in this cave with the trolls, and Farnese learns that she actually is useful. She is so, everyone relies on her to watch Casca because everyone else has like a job. But Farnese was like, I'm useless. And she realizes she is the only thing protecting her and Casca from like these trolls. And she learns that she's like, I'm not useless. I actually am someone. And I thought that was just so banger, dude. I was like, yes. And I just thought it was really good. And while that was all happening, you actually got into the POVs of Griffith, which was mind-blowing. I didn't expect to actually see chapters with Griffith, but you did. And you actually are starting to see how the world is turning. Griffith is legit manipulating this world into him being the king. And what he's doing, this is how I'm viewing it, and I could be wrong. If you guys don't think so, that's fine, let me know. But in my view, Griffith obviously is the one that connected the worlds together for the eclipse. And I think what he's doing is he's using like the demons and stuff, fighting humans, and then he's using his own army to kill these demons and trolls and stuff for the humans to believe that Griffith is their savior, that he is the hawk. So he is bringing safety and justice. And he's portraying like dreams to these children to make them believe like he is like the Messiah, I guess is the best way to explain it. And that's how I'm getting the vibe of it. And I really think it's so well done that it's like, yeah, this is what something that Griffith would do. I would not put it past anything else. This is what Griffith would do. And while this is all happening, you actually start seeing like this big empire and everything. It blows my mind with how well the story is written, just how well the story is in general. And then you go right back to Guts and everything. You get to see a pretty cool stuff. I'm not going to spoil all of it, but there's really cool moments in this where I just feel like, oh man, if you read it, you're like, man, I can't wait to see this animated. That's what goes through my head all the time. And I guess there's movies. Maybe I'll watch them sometime. I don't know. But I know there's one movie that's all CGI. I ain't watching it. Absolutely not. I am really enjoying this, and I thought it was a really just cool element that you finally get on like this boat because they all learn that Puck's world, like his island of all the fairies, actually can save Casca. The queen of the fairies can actually save Casca. Guts gets told that when that happens, she might not be what she once was because she might portray Guts as differently. And it finally happens where you actually get into the world of Casca's mind and they repair her soul. She becomes herself once again. And it's so good to see it. Like, it made me feel so happy to be like, yes! Like, I was just so happy to see Casca this way again. And there's a little bit of me that's like, oh yeah, this was good. And when that all happens, I was super excited to see her and Guts meet. Finally, I'm like, yes, they're finally gonna see each other again. What's gonna happen? And then you finally get there, and the first time she sees Guts, this is crazy artwork. Is you have like a figure of Guts, and then just the backdrop is the eclipse. And I was just like, wow. It was so beautiful. But then that's what Casca saw in Guts, and all you hear is her just screaming. And it cuts off, and that's the chapter. I'm like, oh my god. So of course you have to keep reading. And then you figure out that Casca, every time she is seeing Guts, this keeps happening to her. And apparently, the Queen of the Fairies actually mentions that this could possibly get better for Casca and Guts, or it's just going to keep getting worse. And I sat back, I'm like, damn, this is going to suck. And I think the best elements of this story, the story itself is really good. It's just a revenge story, but I think what really fits for the story is the characters. Guts himself is such a good character, and he is so well developed through all of it. The Black Swordsman arc, you kind of learn some things with Guts, and that's about it. You get the vibe that Guts is just an asshole. But with the rest of this story, you actually learn that Guts is more just human. He's just human. And it's just such a beautiful thing reading this, man. I was so invested in all of it that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see how it ends. But also there's like a little bit of me that's like, I don't want it to end because it's so good. It's gonna be so sad. Oh man, I was just so happy. Every character I've been reading in this have all been great. I have no complaints about any of these characters in the story, and I just cannot wait to see where it gets from there. If you guys made it to the end of this video, I do appreciate it. Make sure you guys let me know down below, what was your favorite aspect of Berserk? who is your favorite Berserk character, and let me know where Berserk ranks in your guys' top 10 favorite manga slash anime, and which one is your favorite arc in Berserk. I would love to know. And of course, make sure you guys stay safe, stay hungry, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.